Bueno, Andrés, gracias por aceptar que te entrevistara para el proyecto Los Archivos Vivos. Este proyecto es un proyecto que estamos haciendo que va a tardar como unos 2 años o más para recopilar historias de muchas minorías y sus experiencias durante la pandemia. Y hoy es el 22 de septiembre. Y esta semana habían 284 reportes de casos de COVID en el condado de Charlotte-Mecklenburg, que enseña que ha bajado 7% en las últimas 2 semanas a los números que teníamos antes. Entonces ahorita los dos hemos dicho que estamos bien con no usar una máscara. Y bueno, Andrés, otra vez, gracias por aceptar que te haga esta entrevista. Comienzo con la pregunta de dónde es tu familia.
De Colombia.
De Colombia.
Sí.
¿Tú has ido a Colombia?
Sí.
¿Sí?
Sí.
¿Y que sabes algo de cómo pasaron o fue diferente las experiencias de la pandemia allá o aquí, o no tienes información sobre eso?
Sí, bueno, tengo una idea. Yo estuve en Colombia apenas ahora este verano, el mes de julio, y hablando allá con mi familia, me contaron un poco de cómo les fue allá y eso con la pandemia, y de pronto una dificultad para ellos que de pronto no noté de la misma manera aquí es con lo del mercado, que por ejemplo en la casa de mi tío mucho el mercado se le hace como a punto de pedidos todas las semanas, como a domicilio y estas cosas, pero como se interrumpieron mucho las vías y las comunicaciones y estas cosas, pues mucha gente quedó sin opciones para el mercado, si no pueden salir y mercar y eso. Bueno, ya para cuando yo estuve ahí este verano ya lo vi recuperado, la mayoría, pues no completamente de pronto, pero sí.
Sí, y sé que la iPad está aquí, pero me puedes mirar a mí para que no te sientas que estás como que mirando ahí. Sí, si quieres mirar a mí, porque va a capturar como que estás mirando esta dirección, no te preocupes.
Sí.
No te
pues está ahí, bueno.
Sí, pero me puedes mirar a mí. No piensa que no existe. ¿Cuáles son algunas cosas, como cuáles fueron tus pensamientos al principio de cuando empezó todo esto?
Cuando empezó la pandemia.
¿Cuándo te acuerdas cuándo fue la primera vez que lo escuchaste?
Sí, pues de hecho yo para eso era como la primavera del 2020 más o menos. Yo estuve en Europa en un programa de estudio en Londres, de hecho, y empezamos a escuchar algunas noticias por un lado y por otro de que, un virus en la China, no sé qué, y en lo que iban pasando las semanas ya nos dimos cuenta que era cada vez más y más serio. Y en fin, el programa, como te digo, era de semestre como de primavera. Yo había llegado ahí como a mediados de enero y se suponía que estaba ahí para un semestre, pero por la pandemia nos tuvimos que regresar a casa como en marzo, o sea, temprano. Y tuve amigos también que estaban en Francia o en España o en donde sea, que lo mismo, tuvieron que regresar temprano, por lo que porque ya el virus estaba alcanzando a afectar fuertemente a Europa, y los gobiernos estaban ya preocupados con el estatus de estudiantes como yo o gente, no sé, en plan turístico o lo que sea. Y claro, con una pandemia así, o digamos una enfermedad así como viral, pues tienen que tener mucho cuidado con quién está entrando al país y quién está de pronto siendo como un vehículo, digamos, para el virus. Entonces, sí, tuvimos que regresar. Pero sí, yo me acuerdo haber escuchado así la noticia un poquito, sí.
¿Y en qué año fue eso?
Sí, el 2020, sí, cuando estaba empezando la pandemia, cuando teníamos noticias, las primeras noticias así de que, parece que hay un virus peligroso, no sé cuántas personas impactadas, lo que sea. Pero eso fue antes de que llegara a los Estados Unidos, claro, porque más o menos, si lo entiendo bien, se movió así de oriente a occidente. Pero sí, bueno.
Entonces, comenzaste tu semestre de la primavera 2020 en Europa. ¿En qué país dijiste que estás, perdón?
En Londres, en Inglaterra.
Okay.
Sí. Y como te digo, yo llegué allá temprano en enero, digamos la primera semana o la segunda semana de enero, y no se hablaba de una pandemia, no se sabía nada. O sea, claro, si se hubieran dado cuenta ni nos hubieran mandado, pero ya estando ahí, pues sí, tuvimos que regresar temprano.
Cuando tú estuviste allí, ¿a alguien le dio la enfermedad, el virus?
De que yo me acuerde, no, pero es posible. Pero sí, no creo.
Okay. Y cuando tú estuviste allí, porque como hablaste de que al principio, ¿verdad? No tenías, no se sabía nada de esto, ¿verdad?
Claro.
Y luego como escucharlo, ¿viste la transformación que hizo el país en algunas reglas que tuvo que imponer o algo así para la pandemia?
Sí, claro, yo alcancé a ver el inicio de lo de las máscaras un poquito, y de pronto la expresión más clara fue ya lo que fueron las restricciones de viaje para bueno, nosotros los extranjeros regresar a los Estados Unidos, porque ya se estaban haciendo reglas y regulaciones para restringir quién estaba pues moviéndose esencialmente. Entonces, pero como para decir que si yo ya alcancé a ver en Londres, no sé, gente enferma por ahí o hospitales en momentos difíciles o algo así, yo no alcancé a ver en realidad de eso. Si es que pasó, bueno, no sé.
Y lo bueno, porque así no te tocó a ti.
Sí, claro.
Sí. Y entonces llegaste aquí a Estados Unidos y ¿en qué punto, qué fue lo que tú miraste entonces? ¿Nosotros ya teníamos reglas puestas para cuando tú regresaste o todavía también estaba como que todavía de eso no se escuchaba aquí?
No, ya.
¿Sientes que llegaste como con un nuevo Estados Unidos? ¿Cuál fue tu experiencia ya cuando llegaste aquí?
Sí, no, cuando yo llegué definitivamente ya se entendía que era una pandemia y que estaba en serio. De hecho, cuando ya estaba de regreso, o planeando al menos el regreso de Inglaterra para acá, yo me pegué un susto porque hayan puesto unas regulaciones de que como para restringir básicamente la entrada al país de personas que estaban llegando del exterior. Y yo me acuerdo que en cierto momento había una lista de aeropuertos de este país, de los Estados Unidos, que tenían autorización para recibir gente de otros países. Bueno, yo de ciudadano pues creo que la tuve fácil de pronto, pero yo me acuerdo que el aeropuerto de Charlotte no estaba en esa lista en ese momento. Entonces yo hice mi pasaje cuando lo hice, como les digo, como en marzo, y regresé, pero cuando yo llegué al aeropuerto aquí de Charlotte, porque volé directo de Londres a Charlotte, me dijeron a mí y a algunos otros pasajeros que técnicamente no debimos haber estado en ese vuelo, que si hubiéramos esperado, no sé, otro día o otros 2 días para comprar el mismo vuelo, que no hubieran autorizado la salida. Me hubiera tocado pasar por New York o por Chicago o algo así. Y los estados de esos aeropuertos, cuando yo vi las imágenes en las noticias, eso sí era un atafago del berraco. Era una multitud pues de gente y un probablemente una like a super spreader type of situation, you know. Porque pues tanta gente y perdida y sin saber a dónde ir y eso. Pero, como digo, me tocó a mí la muy buena fortuna de poder llegar directamente a Charlotte del Reino Unido. Y sí, cuando yo llegué, o sea, algunos pasajeros como yo eran digamos, estudiantes o lo que sea así, pero yo en ese vuelo vi gente que estaba viajando inicialmente, bueno, de Inglaterra, de España, de diferentes viajes, de diferentes países y eso, y nos separaron como para hacer como una entrevista también, como para decir, oh, bueno, usted por dónde viajó en los últimos no sé cuántas semanas o lo que sea, y esas cosas, y me pareció muy interesante. No creo que nos hicieron pruebas, aunque, o sea, pruebas de COVID, quiero decir, pero bueno, de pronto en ese momento todavía estaba un poco temprano, o sea, todavía creo que las autoridades y todo el mundo estaba todavía como un poco perdida, como para, o sea, sin saber exactamente qué es lo que tenían que hacer en ese momento. Y para mí fue una demora, digamos, de 1 hora o algo así, esperando ahí a que autoricen y todo, pero pues en fin, ya estaba en casa y ya, pues me fue bien, llegué bien, sí.
Y tal vez si hubieras entrado por otro aeropuerto sería la espera más larga.
Oh, sí, sin duda. Es que yo vi imágenes de O'Hare, de Chicago, que la gente estaba o sea, los corredores estaban así, o sea, uno no podía, uno veía que la gente ni se podía mover, las filas estaban completamente desorganizadas, nadie sabía por dónde ir, la mitad de la gente solo tenía la máscara puesta, y sí, yo me imagino que eso hubiera sido como un infierno pasar por ahí, o tener que pasar por ahí y a esperar otro vuelo para llegar aquí a Charlotte. Y me imagino que la guardia JFK lo mismo, entonces muy difícil.
Sí. Entonces mencionaste que estabas allí que estabas en Londres por tu escuela, ¿no? Pero dijiste, ¿no terminaste el semestre entonces o sí lo terminaste?
Pues, o sea, sí, es que como te digo, el semestre lo terminé, pero me tocó terminarlo virtualmente, desde casa. Entonces, mi experiencia y la de los otros estudiantes fue como, o sea, para ese semestre estuvo como truncado, ¿no? Porque estábamos allá tomando las clases de manera semanal, regular, y ya todo lo tuvieron que, no sé, integrar o cambiar o transicionar pues a un sistema virtual. Y entonces, claro, para los profesores también difícil, porque pues ya nosotros estando aquí en los Estados Unidos y ellos allá, la diferencia de que serán 6-7 horas, algo así, entonces el horario difícil. Y también, y esa es la otra cosa, estudiantes de mi universidad, seguramente no todos eran de aquí del East Coast, entonces también algunos no, por decirte, San Luis o like LA o something. Entonces yo creo que eso fue muy difícil para la universidad. Yo creo que lo hicieron bien porque pudimos más o menos terminar el semestre así de manera virtual, pero sí tuve una profesora que no pudo continuar porque a ella se le murió, no sé si un papá o un abuelo o algo así, tuvo así como una tragedia, digamos, en la familia relacionada con el COVID. Se tuvo que sustraer, digamos, del semestre y tuvieron que reemplazarla también con alguien así como a último momento. Entonces, eso fue un poco incómodo, claro, obviamente más para ella que para nosotros, pero pues igual. Entonces, sí.
Yeah. What classes were you taking?
The teacher that had the family bereavement, that had to kind of step away, was teaching like a media, like a communication, like media course kind of thing. So it was like she would talk about like the different like newspapers and like about like the BBC and different things like that. It was a nice class. I liked it, but
¿Y qué sucedió con esa clase? Entonces, me imagino que te dieron el crédito.
Claro.
¿Tuvieron a otro profesor o cómo?
Sí, tuvieron que poner a alguien más. Ella, pues me imagino que cuando se enteró de su noticia, le avisó a la universidad que tenía que tomar una pausa y seguramente ella ya tenía preparado para el semestre un plan o un currículum y seguramente se la pasó a la persona que tomó el puesto ahí al final, pero yo la verdad no me di cuenta de nada más de que, o sea, no volví a escuchar de ella. De pronto le debería escribir, quién sabe, pero pues para nosotros los estudiantes igual tuvimos así como virtual, like I don't know if you know, like Blackboard, you just kind of, uno ahí entrega las tareas y eso virtualmente, y otras clases tuvimos todavía así como en llamada de Zoom y eso, pero claro, eso ya es muy maluco.
¿Habías tomado online classes antes? ¿O esta fue tu primera experiencia con las clases por internet?
Yo tomé maybe in middle school or high school or something. Yo tomé una clase que era así virtual, era de lenguaje, era de chino, y no me fue muy bien porque I procrastinated, y para esa clase yo nunca tuve nunca tuve como un profesor y instrucción, ¿sí? Eran puras tareas. Entonces el profesor o la profesora para esa clase yo me comunicaba con a través de email solamente y ya. Entonces obviamente eso no es ideal para aprender un lenguaje, un idioma, pero ya eso había pasado ya hace rato, o sea, ya la experiencia es muy diferente.
¿Y cómo fue esta vez que tuviste que tomar ahora sin saberlo, verdad? Y sin querer, ¿verdad? Sin tener opción, pues.
Claro. Estoy tratando de pensar cómo eran esos días, porque eso tuvo que haber sido ya marzo, abril, mayo, digamos, si no 3 meses, la mayoría de 3 meses, así. Y bueno, el horario en sí no era tan malo, y claro, uno se siente como amañado en la casa y todo, pero para lo que es la clase, o sea, para uno en realidad aprender y sentir que está I don't know, like engaged, ya eso sí, claro, la calidad de la clase iba a bajar desde ese punto de vista, y tampoco es culpa del profesor ni nada así, pero pues es una situación difícil.
There is a difference, how, in learning, So when you came back to the United States, were you living in the same house that you live in now? Was the living situation different?
Yeah. So I came back then to the same place that I'm living in now. Yeah.
Okay. ¿Y vives con alguien, or is it just?
Yeah, my parents.
Okay.
And not permanently, but sometimes my grandparents will live with us as well.
And how was that? How was it to kind of have this news, to come back to be a student, to kind of, see the pandemic unfold in sort of two countries?
Yeah.
And what was the environment like in your house? How did that feel? What did you guys have conversations about it? What was that like?
Yeah, so when I came home, it was already like pandemic. So, I was back in the States and nobody was going outside, at least in our house, right? I think, our house kind of tried to take it seriously, really, for as best as we could from the beginning, but maybe not everybody. But I think we kept the quarantine for the most part. So what was the question again? Just like how is this living?
Yeah, just like what was the environment like in your household regarding the pandemic? Did you guys have conversations about it? Was it something that was like a topic of conversation, like at the dinner table?
Yeah.
Was someone more concerned about it than like the others? Did it feel fearful? Like what were the feelings, I guess, and conversations, if any?
Yeah, so we took it seriously, I would say. And we did talk about it. Obviously, you can't really escape it. And so, but I would say that my sister, she's like 2-3 years older than me. She was definitely more concerned than everybody else. And so, she lives on her own, right? But whenever she would come visit or she'd be around, which obviously that didn't happen until a little bit later, just because the full pandemic going on, she would just be like very, very just like focused on like every little detail of like coming into the house, like take off your shoes, take off all your clothes immediately because that's clothes that's been outside. You know what I mean? Hand sanitizer, everything. Antibacterial wipe, everything. Like the phone, everything. Mask, I mean, obviously that's like, the very first thing. So she, we were able to have a few kind of moments that were like a little bit uneasy with her, just because at some point it felt like she was asking us, like she was asking like a little bit too much of us, of my parents and of myself, because we were making a genuine effort, right? But still, it's like I think for her it's more like her mind just goes to like every little thing that could go wrong, and like anything that's possible, even if it's like not the most likely, so
yeah, because my follow-up question was going to be, how did you respond to that?
To like my sister, yeah, I mean, it was tough because honestly, yeah, like we had like a few kind of like fights about it, like not even just me and her really, but like just like with my parents and like them not feeling like we were doing enough for her to like be comfortable, like she didn't feel comfortable in the house. So like, I mean, for me, I don't know, like if she would ask me to do something, I would try to do it. But inevitably, I would make her upset sometimes too.
That's what happens in families.
That's what happens in families, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes I kind of had to be the mediator a little bit between her and one of my parents, just, if, like, depending on what the argument was about specifically. So, but, yeah, I mean,
yeah, I mean, and her concerns, like, they were...
founded, yeah, of course, yeah.
For sure, yeah, but I can see also how it could take on like a toll on like how much you can ask of someone, for sure, as well.
Yeah.
So you were a student, then when did you graduate?
In 2021, let's say after the fall. Yeah, so after the fall semester of 2020, right? So like on paper it's 2021 because that's just how they figure, but I didn't take any classes in 2020. In 2021, by then I had already finished all my credits. So I was just a semester off, just like for other reasons, not like with the pandemic. And so I had my semester that I was finishing from being abroad, which, like I said, 2020, the spring, March, April, May. And then I had one more semester, which was a fall semester that was also virtual. But that was a semester that I think kind of relied more on like the infrastructure of like the university and like not like being like abroad and like professors abroad and everything like that. So, and by then like time had passed, like the summer had passed, so they probably had figured out a few things about like how to run it properly, because this is something they were having to do for everybody because it was like clear then that the pandemic was really serious. So that wasn't so bad, but yeah, I mean, finished up those classes and then kind of had my diploma, shipped to me. I didn't really go to like the ceremony or anything like that because
¿No lo tenían o no era una opción? O...
Yeah, I mean, creo que era una opción, pero estaba como aplazado y todavía like, you still kind of feel a certain way about New York, just, with the pandemic and everything. It's just like, I just decided not to.
So la escuela estaba en New York?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
¿A qué escuela?
It was Fordham University, Fordham. Yeah, it's in the Bronx. So yeah, I mean, I could have gone, but no.
¿Y con qué te graduaste? What was your major?
Oh, this is marketing. Oops, sorry. It's a marketing degree. Yeah. So.
Okay. ¿Y ahora en qué trabajas?
Oh, ahora yo soy un profesor de ajedrez. Yo enseño ajedrez.
Y han tenido que también como que imponer restricciones con COVID y cómo ha sido esa experiencia de trabajar y el progreso de eso, cómo van cambiando las cosas. What has that been like?
Yeah, big time. Entonces la mayoría de lo que yo hago es enseñar ajedrez en los colegios. Entonces, like before school program, after school. Y estos son programas que la mayoría son para niños como jóvenes, like elementary school, Y claro, cuando se trata de ponerse la máscara y lavarse las manos y todas esas cosas, pues eso es muy difícil para niños de esa edad. Y los colegios obviamente también en su momento cerraron y tuvieron clases virtuales. Entonces nosotros tuvimos en algún momento clases virtuales, las ofrecimos del club de ajedrez, pero pues también no es lo mismo. No todos los muchachos están tan interesados y tan motivados que les puede ir bien todavía con eso. Aunque pues los niños jóvenes de hoy obviamente les va muy bien con la tecnología, pero pues ya es algo diferente. Pero ya a este punto, pues en lo que estamos hablando hoy, ya los programas ya han regresado a estar así presenciales, digamos. Y el club de ajedrez ya también abrimos las puertas y ya estamos aquí ya activos también. Y al menos de mi punto de vista, las operaciones, digamos, día a día, semana a semana, mías y del club de ajedrez ya se ven como normales, así como antes. Obviamente entiendo pues que todavía el virus existe y sigue afectando a alguna gente, pero creo que a partir ya de lo de la vacuna y que pasó algún tiempo y todo, ya está un poquito más tranquilo.
¿Cuándo fue que cambiaron? ¿Cuándo fue que entraron otra vez a hacer cosas en persona?
Sí.
¿Te recuerdas?
Sí, yo creo que fue el año pasado, porque nosotros teníamos que usar la máscara en el colegio, los profesores y los estudiantes también, pero pues claro, es que es muy difícil para ellos. O sea, uno siempre le tenía que recordar, al menos a un muchacho en una clase de 15, 20 niños, siempre al menos uno, y casi siempre más, que la tenían aquí, o bueno. Entonces, sí, eso fue muy difícil, yo creo, pero bueno, ya parece que ha pasado, ya pasó.
Sí. Entonces, dijiste que tu familia they were like really good at like, you know, quarantining, especially like, you know, when we were first hearing about the pandemic. Do you recall a shift on when things in your personal life kind of felt a little bit, oh, okay, I can breathe, like I mean, we're still in a pandemic, right? But do you recall what the shift was for you to finally just be like, all right, things are going back to normal, or they're shifting there? Is there something that you recall that around that time, or that shifted it towards that?
Like a specific moment, you mean? Maybe not so much. I mean, I know that, like, with the vaccines and things like that, so, like, it used to be mask, like, all the time, like, as soon as you step out the door, mask. And then it was mask, I guess, you know, if you were around people, or if you're in a public space, and then I didn't wear it if I was, like, you know, outside or on my own. And then it was like, oh, I would kind of take a mask with me whenever I'd leave, but I wouldn't be wearing it, and so I'd only put it on whenever I go inside somewhere, or whenever I know I'm gonna, like, be seeing people. So it's kind of like a, you know, like a titration, I guess, like a shift. And then just, I guess, one day eventually it was like, oh, everywhere that I go, like, nobody's really wearing it, and maybe I see the news and it's not quite the same as it used to be, and I know I'm double, triple boosted, vaccinated, everything, and most people around me are too, and you feel a little bit more, you know, at ease, I guess, about it.
Y algo que compartiste conmigo antes de esto es que nadie de tu familia le dio el virus, ¿cierto?
Bueno, de pronto cuando te lo dije, pero, like, since then, yeah, todos.
¿A todos les ha dado?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
O sea, como te digo, de pronto cuando te dije eso,
sí.
era así, pero ya por ahí, ¿qué te digo? Como en diciembre, sí, como a fin de diciembre fue que a todos nos dio.
At the same time? Everybody had it at the same time? Or was
Sí, más o menos, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that like?
Well, it was funny. So my sister, my parents, and myself, right? My dad kind of brings home from work, he's a physician, some symptoms, right? And then suddenly my mom and my sister have them too, and so they test, and obviously it's there. I didn't have any symptoms at all, and they actually, it seemed like it hit them pretty hard, actually, because they had a whole mix of basically everything you could get, you know, headache and coughing and just feeling sick, not feeling well, like they were just like laying down, like with the, you know, the COVID has, just like, you know, everything like that. I was fine, so I was the one tasked with, you know, going and getting things from this grocery store for them and everything like that. But it turns out, like, I had it too. So.
But you didn't know then.
Yeah, no, I mean, I obviously, you know, I had to get tested because I'm, like, at home with them, and every single one of it, like, you know, the space isn't big enough to where everybody can quarantine in their own space. So I was bound to get it. But even, like, I did get it, but I never had any of the symptoms kind of like the way that they were having. So I had to withdraw from a chess tournament because I tested positive. And so I didn't want to take the test because I didn't want it to test positive, because I felt fine. I could have played, but it wasn't the responsible thing to do, obviously, to just, you know, go to the event and, like, not know. I mean, obviously I'd wear a mask still. I'd played in a few tournaments with a mask, but I tested and I kind of said like, hey, I have to withdraw, and they're like, obviously that's a good reason, so like, we're gonna refund your money, we're gonna, it's like, it's fine, but so. But,
Was this wasn't the first time you'd done a chess tournament, or was it?
No, I've been playing since like 2015, 14 or so, but obviously like with the pandemic, it's like you have to wear a mask, right? So.
And was that the only time that you had COVID, or did you?
No, no. As far as I know, we only got it one time.
Okay.
And we would test pretty regularly too, so.
With your dad being a physician, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's also important.
Yeah. Well, and plus, honestly, I don't know. Like here in Charlotte, at least, I felt that it was pretty accessible to get like at-home testing kits and everything like that. Like even from Walgreens, you just go in and you're not even paying. Like even just with the insurance, you can have like four kits, and each one is like 2 tests, so that you test and then like 12 or 24 hours later you test again. So yeah, we were pretty decent with that. I remember having to wait in a few lines, like for like StarMed, like these long just lines of like, who's gonna get the rapid test or the PCR, and I remember having to do that a few times, which is annoying, but still did it, I guess. So yeah.
So you were the one tasked with basically doing everything for the household.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody else was weak.
Yeah, fully.
To their bones, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's.
Did you do the cooking?
Yeah, well, so it wasn't like we had a lot. Like, first of all, I'm not really a great person in the kitchen if I'm just on my own. I'll just say that. But we had a lot of stuff kind of in the fridge already, and we kind of always do, like pandemic or no pandemic. So it was kind of easy for me to just like take instructions from my mom about like, just like look in the fridge, you'll find this and this and this, and then do this, and it's fine. So yeah, or sometimes it would be like just having food delivered as well, right? But yeah.
You mentioned your dad being a physician, so did you hear like stories from him? Was it even more? Do you think that maybe your sister felt a little bit more intense about things because your dad was a physician?
That might have been a contributing factor, but I just think that her personality is like, anxious with this kind of thing, even if he wasn't, right, in his line of work. But to your question about like if I'd heard stories, yeah, some of his patients were definitely kind of in the description of people that would be vulnerable, so he would sometimes have to just like make those appointments virtual instead and everything like that. And then for him, obviously, going to the hospital, like he had very strict protocols that he had to follow. So yeah,
Did you have any feelings about him being a physician and being around, sick people, whether they had possibly COVID or not?
Not really. So he's always been. So it's not like I ever like went to work with him and saw the changes that he would see around there. But like I'd imagine. Plus, I don't know. I guess he would sometimes get like some statistics that like maybe the hospital was just keeping track of, that like he could kind of share with us and like, see how things are going. But I don't think it was ever a big deal. I kind of figured that he would get it at some point, just because like it's not so easy to run from the virus indefinitely, no matter no matter who you are, really, like at all. So it's like,
But particularly because he was in that field, do you think that you guys had maybe, or him, right?
Yeah, sure. Like I think it's like almost certain that he brought it home from work, So, but he was healthy enough and didn't knock him down in a way that he couldn't get up. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So what about friendships? What were your friendships like during the pandemic? Were you able to visit people? Did that seem normal, or
Right.
did you do virtual like meetups with your friends? What was that?
No.
What was? Did you isolate yourself from everybody?
Yeah.
What were your friendships like?
That's funny. Yeah, so actually, I think I was kind of isolated a little bit. I might have had a FaceTime here or there, but I think it was just exhausting for everybody to keep track of anything. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so because being at university, it's like people are from like different places anyways. So if like there's a pandemic, like I was abroad and then there's a pandemic and then graduating, right? It seemed like there was a lot of different things that would be getting in the way of that kind of thing, even aside from the pandemic. So a lot of my friends stayed around New York, and so like I was back in Charlotte, which was new to me generally, like even without the pandemic. Like my family lived in New York, we came to Charlotte kind of right around, or maybe a little bit before this whole pandemic thing. So I was quarantining in Charlotte, but it's not like in Charlotte I was missing friends and people that I had here. You know, I didn't know anybody yet. So in that sense, maybe it was actually pretty good for me. I mean, so I was quarantining, and then I ended up, as the quarantine was kind of lifting, I started to explore the city a little bit more. I didn't really know it, and then that way meeting people. So I think it actually worked out pretty well. I mean, like the friends that I have now and that I spend time with now, like here in Charlotte, I met all were like either during technically or like already just past the pandemic. So yeah, not so bad.
Yeah. Like, it sounds like even that was a shift of like trying to make new friends, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The movement that you said.
Yeah.
So did your parents move here because of COVID, or was it something that they already had planned?
They had already planned it. So they were in New York, and then my dad came here to Charlotte first, kind of like with work, right? But my mom was still there, and I was still there as well, like with the university. So my dad would kind of like go there and then like come back like whenever he could, kind of like on weekends and stuff, which was probably tough for him. But I mean, he did that, and then eventually my mom followed, and then for me, whenever all this happened in 2020, that I was coming back from being abroad and the pandemic, and then like having that last semester before graduating, that's when I just like came back here, because by that point we didn't have our place in New York anymore, so we were just here fully by then. So but yeah, their decision to come to Charlotte was before the pandemic. Yeah.
Would you consider yourself more of an isolated person, more introverted, or the opposite?
I don't really know. I mean, it's tough. Like this, the answer to this kind of question like changes for people like as time goes by, and I don't know. I haven't checked in with myself a little bit, because I think that making new friends maybe isn't so easy for me, but when I have them, then I do pretty okay with like, staying constant with them, let's say, if that makes sense.
And the reason I asked is because I was curious to know like how, just based on your personality, how that affected you during the pandemic, because you said that you didn't really keep up with friends, and
right.
So but like, was that okay, or did it feel like isolating because maybe you need that, or maybe you were just like, like I'm okay, like it's fine?
Yeah, I don't think I don't think I really suffered that much really with that, because again, I was in Charlotte, but I didn't know Charlotte, and I didn't know anybody in Charlotte. So it's not like the quarantine for me was making me like be away from people I wanted to be with. Like it didn't feel like that. And as far as like people from school, I mean, I don't know, like that might have shifted away a little bit too. But again, that was gonna happen even without the pandemic, just because because I'm here in Charlotte and most of them are in New York, so that was just kind of that way, anyways, right? So yeah.
Have you been able to reconnect with any of your friends in New York, or did those friendships?
You know, I mean, like there's some people that like I don't talk to anymore that at some point were pretty good friends. I don't think that was ever, you know, like as a how do I say it? I don't think there was any falling out or any like bad endings to any of these friendships. I think everybody just kind of understands that, like, you know, even without a pandemic, if it's friends from school that you're seeing every day because you see them on campus, but then everybody graduates and goes somewhere different to do something different, then like that would happen naturally. And these are friends that probably, you know, I could reach out to or like see whenever, and it would probably seem like we'd just pick up where we left off, even though it's been some time. And then there's some friends that I have kept up with a little bit. I mean, travel obviously wasn't possible initially, but you know, going back to New York, I went to New York once or twice, and then I went to Philly at some point for a chess tournament, and some of my friends from New York kind of met me there, and so that was good. I even had friends come down here from there too. So yeah, it's not so bad.
So how was it? When did you visit New York again? Because you said you went twice. What were
Once
those
or
two
twice.
times that you? Yeah, those one or two times. When were they? And what was the environment like? Because New York had it pretty tough. So what was the environment like in visiting there?
Right.
Did it feel different?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I was in New York City for my sister's birthday. So she's kind of got like a late December birthday where we were there, and it's really cold. And it's really cold, but at the same time, all the restaurants are trying to convince people to eat outside because it's pure COVID time. And so my sister, she lives in New York State, not in New York City, but you know, upstate New York. And so she came down with her boyfriend, and like we were there with them and my parents and everything. And you'd see all the restaurants like kind of on the outside of them, and like on the side of the road almost, kind of, they had these little, like, I don't want to say kiosk, but like these little kind of like temporary, like makeshift like constructions, where so that like they could say, oh, you know, we're following New York State guidelines or whatever by like having only outdoor dining and not indoor. But they would end up just like sealing them up anyways for heating purposes, because it was so cold. This is December in New York, and so like that was just like a kind of a funny balance of like, okay, what are we doing? You know, like you don't want to be inside because of the virus, but being outside is like tremendous. So it's just cold. So that was kind of tough. But yeah, no, definitely the streets looked emptier. It felt different. It just all around. And New York, kind of like the soul of New York, I feel like, is like a lot of the restaurants, and a lot of those went out of business just with the pandemic. They couldn't kick it. So yeah, I definitely like noticed that stuff too. And
Was there a restaurant that you liked that closed?
No, I don't think I can say that specifically, but I remember hearing, I didn't get to go, but I remember hearing that an owner or like a manager of a restaurant that we'd frequented, that he actually passed with, which like I'm pretty sure was like COVID related. So, and that was in Queens. So, yeah, definitely a lot of that was going on. Definitely even more than like I was aware of. So, but
yeah. So the streets looked emptier.
Yeah, they felt like it. Yeah.
The restaurants, they were trying to keep afloat. It seems like.
Yeah.
did you notice any other things that shifted the environment of New York?
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, like, New York around that time is usually, like, again, like, late December. It's usually very festive just because, you know, you got the Rockefeller tree and you got just, you know, like, everything is, like, Christmas, everything. But it didn't quite feel the same then. Even though it's, like, the same time of the year, it didn't quite feel that same way. And yeah, and then like the subway too, like my sister didn't even want any of us on it, like, at all, which kind of makes sense because in terms of, like, I don't know, like the propagation, right, of a virus, like the New York City subway is probably one of, like, the largest, most effective vectors that you could imagine. But I remember I used it like one day. I went to visit my friend in Brooklyn, and I kind of, like, didn't tell her, but then she's like, "Oh, you were on the subway, weren't you?" I was like, "Well."
She knew.
Yeah, I think she knew. But, you know.
Like, where were you gone this whole entire time?
Yeah. Well, no, because I was just used to yeah, but anyways, so.
Wow. Did you pick up anything new during the pandemic, or did it seem just, you know, I guess really what I'm trying to ask is, were there any sort of maybe, like, inner motivations that you were like, oh, maybe I can try to learn X, Y, or Z, or do X, Y, or Z since I'm, like, quarantined? Or did it seem just like, it'll pass, I'm gonna keep my normal routine, I'm gonna keep on doing the same thing?
No, I mean, I started exercising. I was kind of a little far removed from that, from whenever I arrived back here in March from London. But I got into exercising, but aside from that, no real change. I mean, obviously being in quarantine kind of helps to have, like, more time to do the things that you want to do, that I wanted to do. But for me, that didn't really change, like, what it was, which is primarily, like, chess. I just really, you know, I teach, but then also, like, I like to study and play, and having that time for that was really nice. And yeah, I want to say I took advantage of it.
So you got to do more of what you loved.
Yeah.
And you said you started to exercise more, or maybe came back to it. Seems like. What were you doing? Did you go to a gym, or was it more at home?
Yeah, just at home. Everything. We it was funny. We had this this family member of ours, this cousin, sent us these videos of, like, these guys. I think they're Mexican, where they're always putting videos, like, on Instagram. And I think they must have a YouTube channel by now, but they blew up with the pandemic, and they do, like, a lot of, like, calisthenic type stuff. And I remember I would follow, like, their videos. They had, like, we had one for every day of the week saved, just like on the computer, just so that, like, we could just always do the same one for, like, that day of the week. And for a little while there, my mom was actually doing them pretty consistently with me as well. She's since dropped off, but I kind of really got the ball rolling with that. And, like, now I do different workouts, but, like, just the consistency of, like, kind of doing something every day, I haven't, like, let go of, like, since then, which I'm really grateful for. But yeah, no going to a gym, of course, you know, again, those surfaces are going to be probably not so clean and everything like that. And I mean, even, like, before pandemic, I never was, like, a really big, like, go to the gym type of person. So yeah, so again, it kind of felt normal to just work out in the house. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end with this question, but of course, if you, I'm also gonna ask if there's anything else that you want to share. But the last sort of more official question that I wanted to ask is, what do you think the future will look like now for us?
Do you mean like here in Charlotte for COVID? Like,
yeah, in life and the world. Do you have any thoughts on what you think, how we'll live through it, if we'll eventually not hear, COVID-19 or the pandemic? What do you think the future will look like?
Oh, well, I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic is now like forever just like cemented in history. So we're gonna, at some point in the future, even if this pandemic ever truly dies, which I'm not sure we can even be convinced of, but like even if it does, like in the future, like people are still gonna talk about COVID, and there's chances are going to be some other pandemic at some other point anyways. I don't know, hopefully this one kind of has this kind of forced like leaders to think about like, oh, this kind of thing can happen, and we need to be prepared, because I don't really think we were prepared. So yeah, hopefully that's the future. Hopefully we're prepared for the next time. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Andres, for allowing me to interview you. But before we sign off, is there anything else that you would want to share with us?
No, I don't think so. This was great. Thank you.
I covered everything.
Yeah, sure.
No, well, thank you so much.
All right, cool.